You just let me know, Andrew. I guess. I'm nervous. It's a big crowd. Got this. My high school students are scary. I'll just say that.
There you go.
You guys came here willingly. They don't.
They don't want it. And you got people online?
Yeah.
That's me. At least.
People are trickling in here.
Oh,
I want to wander. I have to stay in my zone. Stay in my cage. Andrew, are we good? We're recording?
Yeah.
Looks like we're screen sharing. Can the folks out in Zoom land hear us? Theoretically? Yeah. Maybe. Okay. We'll give it a shot. All right, great. Welcome to our fourth and final installment of our My Story series. My name is Dan Clare. I'm the proud chairperson of the written and spoken word events that the Wilma Dykeman Legacy holds, or that the different events that we do in that capacity. So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker this evening, Ms. Tanya Davis. I'll bring her up in a few minutes. I'm going to say some words just to kind of set the stage here. So we've had a blast over the last several months getting to know a lot of individual narratives of folks in the Western North Carolina area, just telling very unique stories and just, triumph over adversity, just all kinds of, local color, just so much love and appreciation for the region in which we live. And, I think tonight is an absolute continuation of that with Tanya's beautiful book, Threads, Tapestry of Life in the Black Community of Shiloh and Beyond. So I loved reading this book. I was talking to Tanya about it. It felt like I read it was like a literary quilt. And I'm an English teacher by day, so this was, it's just such a cool collection of different stories and poems and reflections and some nonfiction reflections from people in her community that are near and dear to her. So it was so illuminating and wonderful. And I've had the pleasure to teach quite a few children from the Shiloh neighborhood, and it gave it a whole new dimension for me. So thank you. Real fast. So, and Andrew, our guru, our technology guru over here is going to guide us through some things. So we'll be like, slide or next, please. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact. So again, I'm from the Wilma Dykeman Legacy, and Wilma Dykeman is sort of like an Appalachian First Lady of literature. So if y'all haven't heard the name, if you're from this area, you've probably heard of the Wilma Dykeman Greenway, which suffered quite a bit through the devastation of Helene, but we're getting back to it. So these are kind of our three cornerstone sort of philosophical ideals that we sort of look at all of our programming through the lens of. So clarifying and promoting environmental and social justice through the written and spoken word. So environment, social justice, and the power of the written and spoken word. So that's what we're all about. Andrew, next slide, please. And this is woman, and she's a very prolific author, very well known for her book, The French Broad, which was one of the first books of its kind to call attention to environmental degradation in our region. It was part of the 50 Rivers of America series that was published initially to bring tourism to the area. And her publisher, knew that she was a great voice, wanted to incorporate her writing into this series. And she came at him with one of her chapters that was entitled, "Who Killed the French Broad?" And it just drew attention to the fact that all of the factories and all the industrial runoff that had built up along the French Broad River had essentially decimated the biological life and had sort of taken away all of the reasons why people wanted to go to the river to begin with. And they kind of looked at her and said, "Why are you doing this?" And she said, "Because it's time to speak truth to power," and that was kind of what she's known for. But other books also, the Neither Black Nor White that she wrote in 1957, explores the complex issues surrounding race and identity in our region in particular, in the American South as a whole. And she was a great writer of fiction as well. So if you've not heard of Wilma, now you have. You got to go read her stuff. Welcome to the fold, and thank you guys for being here. Next slide real fast, Andrew. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, if you all have a great time tonight, if you've encountered our events before and you're not a member of our Facebook community or a member of our website newsletter. It's free of charge. We'd love for y'all to just like and subscribe to those channels so we can continue to keep you informed about events like this in the future. And Andrew and I, that's us. We'll be back there where Jim is, answering questions. And if you'd like to just scan a QR code, we'll get you signed up. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Miss Tanya Davis. Tanya Davis is the wife of Stephen Davis, mother of 7 and grandmother to 11 grandchildren, unless that's changed recently.
No.
Holding steady at 11.
Hold it steady.
Yes, okay. We think, okay, that's wonderful. She has authored 3 books. May I please speak with my father? I don't want to shame my daddy's name, and Urban Monks and Mystics, excuse me. She's also served as a publisher for numerous other books on a variety of topics and contributed to various online organizations. She holds a bachelor's degree in counseling from DePaul University and a master's degree in writing with an emphasis on narrative medicine from Lenore Ryan University. I'm so excited to talk to you more about that because I want to know everything. She believes in the power of story and the importance of being active listeners when people share their stories. She emphasizes that our stories help us grow in empathy and love for each other. Tanya facilitates narrative workshops that bring people together to process and share the stories their bodies hold. And one more, Andrew. And this is the book that she'll be talking to us about a little bit this evening. Threads. So a journey into the heart of Shiloh with Tanya Davis. It's a small, vibrant African-American community in Nashville, North Carolina. Threads is a multifaceted compilation capturing the essence of Shiloh through history, heartfelt stories, poems, prose, and essays. It offers fragmented memories, candid opinions, questions, and random thoughts that paint a picture of life in the Shiloh communities. That's the centerpiece for this evening. Go ahead, Andrew. I'll wrap this up quick. I'm just going to kind of summarize this, but when I was reading her book and I was finishing it up in preparation for this event, came across this passage towards the end, and it just reminded me of Thomas Wolfe. And I mean, that's a name that a lot of people in this area know quite well. Thomas, you know, even if it's just the Thomas Wolfe Auditorium where you see music, Thomas Wolfe's kind of the literary native son of our area. And there's this famous quote from You Can't Go Home Again. And he said, you can't go back home to your family, back home to your childhood, back home to a young man's dreams of glory and fame, back home to places in the country, back home to the old forms and systems of things which once seemed everlasting, but which are changing all the time, back home to the escapes of time and memory. You can't go back. Because, I mean, I guess you can go back physically, but you can't go back. And go ahead, Andrew. And this just struck me when I got to this section in Tanya's book. She said this on page 175. Everything seemed big when I was a child. The rooms, and I'm sure she'll talk about this, leaving the Shiloh community, going up to Chicago, coming back, you know, doing the whole thing. Everything seemed big when I was a child. The rooms, the chairs, the streets. I think it's the blessing and the curse of leaving home and discovering the world is bigger than what can be seen with the eyes. Learning, traveling, getting to know and understand the perspective of others, seeing the affluence of people and realizing someone will always have more. It all expands the mind. The curse of it all, the eyes are now open and nothing is the same. Becomes a nostalgia mingled with disappointment and sadness because I feel so far away from this place. And then one more, Andrew. And she says this, I came home to myself and home came back to me. So I kind of felt like that was a cool reversal of that Wolf quote. You know, it's you can go home, right? In a way, but it's just a different thing. And without further ado, I've talked way too much. I'm going to bring up our esteemed author, Ms. Tanya Davis. Thank you. Oh, you're good. Okay. And we'll be your guy.
Steve did not know these pictures were up here, so he's gonna be a little surprised. Thank you, everyone, for having me. This is just, I'm really overwhelmed. And if you read the book, you know, I have a chapter called Spirit Tears. So I call that when heaven touches earth in those moments. So if you see the tears falling, that is all that is about, because the overwhelm is coming up for me. But thank you so much. And I know my family, some of my family members are online and friends, and And so I thank you for being here. Before I get started, I wanted to read from page 9. And it's an introduction from a friend of mine who wrote, "Her personal tales and views are stories in Black and brown that traverse periodically in white, reminding the reader that we all grew up together, one culture contributing to another. Her narratives are rich with transformation for the heart. She will trigger memories of her past into you as the reader and to the collective soul." So that's just a reminder to you all that we're in this together, and that that was one of the purposes of the book, to trigger memory in you. And with that being said, make sure you have your phones out. And I know I won't take it personally, because I believe that memories will be triggered. And every now and then as I'm reading, I may say, hey, did a memory come up with you of that? Could you like to share it? I may call 1 or 2 people here. And I'm so happy to see all these new faces. There's so many people here I don't know. And I look forward to meeting all of you. So before we get started, I would like to read the dedication. To my husband,
Yes.
Steve. I have run out of words to express my love for you, and you have loved me extravagantly. So thank you. I am yours forever, for good or for bad. I don't know what you think about that. And I also dedicate this book to my children. If you could move to the next slide. I just had to put that up there because it's just like, oh my God, it's a great picture, y'all.
It is.
Okay, next picture. And this is part of my crew. I just thought that was hilarious because this is what we do, is crack jokes all the time. But this picture is actually 8 years old.
Wow.
And it was a surprise to the family. And she was the only grandchild, and my daughter was carrying one. So that shows you how fast. She is the oldest. The oldest grandchild is 8. So in 8 years, there have been 11 grandchildren.
Wow.
So that shows you how, time just flies. And so next picture. And this is just pictures of the crew, the girls, and next picture, the guys, and next picture, the grandchildren, some of the grandchildren. This is all the dedication to them. Keep going. These are my dedication pictures. Mom and Dad. These are all of my dedication. My sister and my nephew. My nephew again, and my great niece and nephew.
Wow.
My other nephew, Christian, and Jalen, who lives in Utah, who is a hiker. He climbs mountains, and he was actually, just a little North Carolina history, he was actually a National Geographic for Black hikers. So, yeah. Next. Oh, okay, we can scroll back out. Can you go to the next picture? I think I put him in the wrong, there, this is the picture I was looking for. This is full professorship as of yesterday.
Yes.
Laura Hope Gill, we call her notorious LHG. This is the reason why I'm here tonight. Long story in, when I left Asheville, I said I will never come back. And I went on with my life. The kids came, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with my life? And I was looking for a narrative medicine program, and I looked in the UK, I looked at NYU, and then it said Lenore Ryan University in Asheville, and I said, no. And I called Laura, and she was like, yeah, I'm just starting this program, and you'll be on WebEx, and there'll be like 15 of you, and you should just go ahead and apply. And I started laughing, and she said, what's wrong? And I said, I promise myself I'd never come back there.
Wow.
And she said, Tanya, come home, just that gentle. And I said, okay. So this picture here was long after graduation, and I ran into Laura on the streets of Italy.
Oh my God.
We passed each other on the streets. It was the most random thing. So we met, had bugles and Aperol spritz on the streets of.
Wow.
And the bugles
Italy.
were in a crystal bowl.
Yes, and the
It was
bugles
like
were in a crystal bowl.
delicacy.
Yeah, it's the most random thing ever. So, and that class that she went on to produce we've all done things. Like, it's just amazing. And they're the ones that told me to write the book. And at one time, I was not going to go back to class because we had a student who told me that I wasn't a good writer. And I didn't tell Laura about it. And she actually wrote me a note, sent my papers back, corrected them with red ink. And I just said, okay, you know, you're a writer now, so you'll change programs. That was the thinking. And I called Laura to say, hey, I won't be coming back. And she said, where are you? And I said, I'm in Tennessee. And we had never met personally. And she said, okay. And the next thing I know, she said, what's your address? I'm coming over the mountain. She came to Knoxville.
Wow.
This woman came to Knoxville and said, you're not leaving my writing class.
Wow.
She did not have to do that. So we are here tonight because of you did that. So I just wanted to make sure you
Yes.
get your props. So.
That woman.
Okay, so where are we now?
Wow.
I think I have messed up the slides. I'll learn Google Slides today, you all, so thank you for your patience.
So,
There's a map of Shiloh that I don't know if you've seen it in the book, but I just want to read because a lot of people have told me often they had never heard of Shiloh, which is one reason why I wrote the book. They said they didn't even know there were Black people
right,
in Asheville.
right.
Oh, the number of times I have heard that when I leave this place blows me away. So just a reminder, the community of Shiloh, a biblical name generally denoting the Messiah or the peaceful one, is in South Asheville in North Carolina. The area is defined as that community located between Hendersonville and Sweeten Creek Roads, bounded on the north by I-40 and on the south by Rock Hill Road. Shiloh is a historically African-American community that has been continuously inhabited since the late 1880s. That's a long time. The African-American population in Shiloh began as a small group of distantly related relatives in the 19th century. African-Americans also settled in smaller neighborhoods near Shiloh during and after that time. Two of those neighborhoods are Rock Hill and Petersburg, located opposite Sweeten Creek Road, Brooklyn, and another small neighborhood in the Shiloh vicinity was dismantled when I-40 was built around it. These areas are considered by many to be a part of Shiloh. And this information, and I'm so grateful for her, is from my elder witness bearer and historian, Anita White Carter.
Yay.
Thank you, Miss Anita.
Yes.
Love you, dear.
Yes.
So I would like to read a poem, and I'm just going to kind of skip around here. And hopefully these pictures are in some kind of order, but there's no picture for this, so I'll just say next. So it's called Heartbeat Melody. I awake to the morning in my twin bed in our Shiloh home with a song in my heart, beating in my ear and setting the rhythm for a new day. The light from the sun is singing a morning song as it rises over the green mountain peaks that surround our Shiloh neighborhood, that surround Asheville like a protective wall. These mountains are the reminder that beauty is for all of us, Black, white, poor, rich. At the close of the day, the sun sets blanketed and resting behind the mountain peaks. The crickets sing, the lightning bugs fill the night sky. Sweet sleep, I awake, my heart beating to the melody of a new day.
Beautiful.
So I'm just going to kind of go through the book. And I wrote pieces of me that create the whole of me, recognizing that we are all made of one thing, that we're not made of one experience, and not one experience defines who we are. And this came out of an understanding that of trying to understand, what do I do with all the pieces? Like, there's so many pieces to us, right? And I think sometimes we have painful experiences and it overrides all the good, right? Instead of understanding that all of them can live in one body. And what do we do with all these stories that live in us? Which is why I do the work that I do and create community where people can sit with their stories. So this is called Shiloh Threads, Pieces of Me That Create the Whole of Me. I'm created from dust, water, and blood, filled with spirit, joy, and love. My DNA carries the threads of Shiloh, Edward, and Eleanor, my mom sitting here, and dad somewhere in the back. There's my dad back there. The threads are part of memories that are woven on the landscape of my heart. I have never destroyed them or thrown them away because love can be found in them, joy can be found in them, I see beauty in the pieces that have been sewn, torn, and mended. I gather them up one by one and bring them home to myself. I stitch the pieces together and create a gorgeous multicolored garment. It is beautiful, it is flawed, every piece is unique, and they are pieced together into safety, comfort, warmth, and love. I will blanket my children in it, and my children will preserve the garment and cover their children. The Shiloh threads are the pieces of me that create the whole of me. And so I'll just read, I won't read the whole thing, I'll just read some of these. Moon pies, Little Debbie oatmeal pies. We all know these, don't we? Woolworth hamburger and fries at the counter, which I went and sat at the counter last time I was here with a friend of mine. Grandma's old stereo playing In the Upper Room by Mahalia Jackson. Grandma's rabbit trap and cooking rabbit stew. Grandma's gingerbread cookies shaped like stars. White chalk on black tar on our narrow street. For hopscotch and foursquare, for jump rope, playing tag and hiding go seek. The outdoors, our grassy playground. The sock full of soap pieces by our bathtub that created a multi-scented Newbark soap, a fusion of Irish Springs, Dow, and Ivory soap. Sitting in the back seat of Mama Greg's car. Do you remember this, Trina? Other drivers passing her and hearing her loudly proclaim with a pouted lip, "Go on, baby, hell ain't halfway full." Surrounded daily by cousins, aunts, and uncles, Miss Bird's rifle. A reminder to any animals or intruders that came into your yard that she would shoot. Eagle Street, once the mecca for Black business in Asheville, including my great uncle Ulysses, who owned an Amoco gas station. Skating on Sunday evenings and wearing coordinated outfits with friends, white balloon pants and sneakers. Loading up in my friend's Chevy Chevette to get to the skating rink, stacked in the car. Disco balls at the rink, displaying an array of colors as roll bounce played, and everyone bouncing, popping, swirling, and twirling around the rink floor. Black joy on display. Watching different strokes, Sanford and Son. The fragments are the threads, the sutra that ties everything together. The threads are a part of me. Out of these threads flow joy, wisdom, light, healing, story. They are a part of who I am. They all belong. So with that being read, did that trigger any memories in you?
Yes.
In your own lives?
Yes.
Can anyone just kind of name a few things that came up for them?
In the car ride, I remembered my family would drive from Toronto all the way to Sarasota, Florida every winter. And we had no screens, of course. One heck of a car ride.
Beverly Hillbillies for my brother and me. We got to stay up a half hour later because the Beverly Hillbillies came on at 8:30. And we laughed, we thought it was a comedy, we laughed at Miss Hathaway and the banker. They were the funny people to us.
Amos and Andy.
Amos and Andy? Yeah.
When you mentioned Eagle Street, Eagle and Valley, my father had a grocery store on Valley in Eagle, Feldman's Grocery.
Wow. Thank you. Oh, Tom. Go ahead.
Little League baseball and eating hamburgers at McDonald's when we won.
Miss Anita?
Oh, when you mentioned the car ride, my father used to always, he had this old car. And he would always take us to the drive-in movies because he wouldn't allow us to go uptown and sit in the balcony. So he would take us to the drive-in in his old car.
Wow.
Thank you. So, okay, next picture. But can you go back one slide? Because I know Mom hates this, but this is also, this is us and our Ruth Originals. The little outfits we did. Yeah. Okay, let's go forward.
I'll see.
Oh, my daughter's entering.
Yeah.
Okay,
Keep going.
See what the next one is. There we go.
Hey.
So I just want to read the first part of this about my dad. I don't believe you can forgive and forget. I believe you forgive, and it's how you remember. Tanya, here are some of the things I remember about Shiloh. Dad told me this with his deep, baritone voice as he extended his long arm on his 6'2" frame and gently placed in my hand an old square-shaped cassette player like a rare diamond. Nestled inside of the tape player was a cassette tape. He knew this form of technology was outdated and suspected I need help playing his tape. There's a restlessness in my soul when I realize my dad is sharing intimate details about his life in Shiloh. And it's overwhelming that here I am at 57 years old, yeah. About to listen to fragments of his story on an outdated tape recorder. He has never told me much of anything about his life in Asheville, only silence. He's 84 years old now. Maybe the silence has grown too loud. At times, there seems to be an unspoken code among the elders in our community. Don't talk about it, especially when the memories are painful, as if not talking about it will make it vanish. It's an illusion of control. The pain never goes away. The silence just leaves a wandering in the path of those who receive the pain next. I remember my first tape recorder. It was like this one, a rewind and fast forward button and a slow pause feature. I remember recording my voice and the voices of others on it. After pressing the play and red record button at the same time, my maternal grandmother, Georgia, would entertain me by reading into the player. She would have the biggest smile on her face as she spoke into the recorder. All creatures, great and small, the Lord God made them all, made them all, made them all. With each made them all, her voice grows softer and softer. I managed to find some compatible earplugs for the recorder, then go to my office, my quiet place, surrounded by all the things I love. Every nook and cranny have books, stacks and stacks of books, Laura, by a variety of authors such as Maya Angelou and Alice Walker, and books like dictionaries, Bibles, Chicago Manual of Style. Pictures line my walls, pictures that merge my past and future, creating collective memory. I imagine my 100-year-old grandmother speaking from her picture into the life of my 5-year-old granddaughter, sharing stories and wisdom with her. My desk is full of paperwork, affirmations, a box of Kleenex, and printed drafts of manuscripts. My computer sits in the middle. I am comfortable in my black leather chair, facing the piles of papers and affirmations and computer. I press play and listen to my dad. I can hear him trying to remember and trying to forget. I can hear regret in his deep, bass voice. My story of living in Shiloh began because I am the daughter of Ned and Edward Jackson. Listen. And so then he goes on and he shares, and I divided it into sections, recollection, his recollection, and then my recollection after listening to it, his remission, and then my remission response. And then every good story has redemption. And so then there's a redemption section. And what caught my attention the most is the pain pause. And I always say, we have heard that phrase, I can forgive, but I'll never forget, as if forgetting is a requirement for forgiving. And I like to say it's how you remember. So when you remember, is it an ache? Is it resentful? Is it resentfulness that consumes you? The story your body is holding, does it bring depression and darkness? Or when you remember, do you feel peace? Do you feel freedom? Do you feel joy? So we need to stop when those pain pauses come to us and listen to our bodies, because pain pauses are information and they're trying to tell us something. So I'm not stopping for a response right now, but that's just something to think about. And I guess the prompt would be, when your pain pauses come, how is your body responding? And so that would be a prompt that I would give if we were doing a narrative writing session. And then I wrote the Model T, which I think is next. There we go. And so this is the Model T. This is not the actual car. I got this. It was a just a random shot that I found. So I'll read this. It's called the Model T. My cousin Tamara is our family historian. I am sure she is driven by a desire for our family to understand our place of origin and the stories that surround it, good and bad. I appreciate her caring for us in this way. I called her to ask the question, how did great grandma Artie's family end up in Asheville? We know that we started in Africa. My DNA results confirm this: 37% Nigeria, 23% Cameroon, 11% Mali, 5% Benin, 2% Senegal. The DNA thread suggests that our ancestors were in slavery, 9% England and Northwestern Europe, and 3% Sweden. My Asheville ancestral line is from the paternal side, but I also need to add that my maternal fourth great grandfather has been identified as a slave owner. The threads Tamara provide give me a clue that our ancestors ended up in Virginia, based on the death certificate of my third great grandmother, Sally Patterson. Sally's son, Aaron, resided in Pickens County, South Carolina with his wife, Dora, and 7 of their children. In 1910, the family lived in Anderson, South Carolina. My great grandma Artie and all her children were born in Anderson, South Carolina. Tammy asked Uncle Ulysses, her great grandpa, and my great grandma Artie's son, the Amoco station owner, how did Artie's branch of the family get from Anderson to Asheville? Uncle responds, we came in a Model T, of course. Artie's brother Sammy had moved to Asheville and had been successful in finding work at Norman's Hospital, which was owned by a wealthy family in Asheville. Does anyone remember Norman's Hospital at all? No recollection of it? He encouraged his younger sister to move there as well. Artie initially came to Asheville alone. Sammy got her a job as a cook in the Norburns' home. Great grandma Artie had to go back to Anderson for a while to tend to her ailing mother, who had been injured during the 1929 tornado. But Artie's heart was now in Asheville. Uncle goes on to say, Artie and her husband Celeste had a farm in Anderson County on which they grew a variety of crops, mostly corn and cotton. But with the promise of a better life in the city, they convinced a friend to drive them to Asheville. They loaded up their 4 children, Addie, my grandma, age 13, William, 11, I was 9, and Clyde, 7, with the driver and all the belongings that could fit and headed towards Asheville. The journey was very slow. We probably could have walked faster. The old Model T gave out about halfway. Luckily, we broke down in front of a house, and the family who lived there helped until we could get on our way. Grandma Artie resided in Asheville until her death at 100 years old. She passed away in September 2000. Her descendants are now spread far and wide, from humble beginnings as farmers in Oconee County, South Carolina, to executives, pastors, entrepreneurs, college graduates, engineers, doctors in Asheville, Atlanta, Chicago, Connecticut, Florida, and beyond. Okay. So these chapters are long. I'm not going to read all of these, but the Rhythm of the Shadow Saturday Morning is about having a Saturday morning routine and the soundtrack of your life, and hearing my mom, getting things cleaned up. I talk about how my friends call me a walking jukebox, and how I remember what the Saturday mornings were like in our home, and seeing her dance with the mop, and her working at Fieldcrest. And eventually was sold to Marshall Fields, which ironically is where I reside, that's where I lived in Chicago. And so that brought back a lot of memories as well. And I talk about the house and how she cleaned, and the Soul Train and all that. And so I don't know how many people have read the book. Okay. So I asked the prompt, and this is a prompt for you to think about later on, even if you have not read it, think about this. What was your Saturday morning like as a child? And if anybody could answer that, we can get like 3 people to answer. What was your Saturday morning like as a child?
We would go to the Imperial.
We
would go to the Imperial.
Go to the Imperial
Theater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we would go up to the Imperial, and for 25 cents, we could stand and wait for them to open the door, and we would go in, and we could watch cartoons and all kinds of things every morning and stay until the late afternoon. It was for 25 cents. It was just wonderful.
Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Casper the Friendly Ghost, that was a part of mine too.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Cleaning with Ajax and Clorox.
Oh. Priscilla, I talk about that in here. Yeah, we did that too.
At our house, you weren't gonna do anything until that house was cleaned up. So about noon, I think Soul Train came on.
Yeah.
And we were almost done, but if we couldn't watch Soul Train until we got that house immaculate.
That was our house, right, Wendy? So, I think next slide, or it meant that the next, let's see. Go to the next one. I mean, go back to, yeah. So this one I put with the chapter on my hair is my crowning glory. And I'm not, these are long chapters, I'm not gonna read these, but I just say the personal stories of Black hair care rituals are endless. They are full of joy, connection, and tears, okay? My husband said, if I had known when I married you, that this was what this would have been like, I would have gone to cosmetology school. He said, I had no idea that it was gonna be like this. So we had a hair ritual. It was for mom to prepare us for the week. I'll just read the first chapter of this. Before science found a connection between the power of touch and how it releases joy and healing in our bodies, Black women were experiencing that joy when our mamas or stylists touched our scalps during Saturday hair rituals. Those scalp touches bring joy and release stories even now. I asked a Black sister friend, what was your favorite hair ritual? She said, I have 11 siblings and there was no way mama could do all our heads. Making sure we looked our best for Sunday and for school was important to my mama. So the 5 older siblings took care of the 6 younger siblings. My sister would shampoo my hair. She would sit on the end of the couch. The 4 other siblings would be sitting lined up on the couch beside her. I and the other siblings sat on the floor between our sister's legs. My sisters would comb my hair out and then plait it out and put it in ponytails. It would hurt because my scalp was so tender. It was entertaining because we all would be laughing at each other, getting mad at each other for laughing at the others crying, and the older sisters would be jerking on our heads. It makes me laugh even now as I remember those good moments. Those are treasured moments. It also reminded for me that mama did the best she could. Yeah. So our Saturdays were full of hair care. Going to Aunt Estelle's if mom couldn't do it. Up at Haynes grocery store, which I have to mention. So I talk about Haynes grocery store a little bit because people don't know about Haynes grocery store, which was in the Black community of Shiloh. So I say the Saturday morning hair ritual prepared us for the upcoming week and would be the one thing she had to worry, one less thing she had to worry about in our care for the week ahead because she left for work at 7 a.m. On special occasions like Easter, the hair care routine was different. Mama would take us to Haynes grocery store to make sure our hair looked extra nice. My Aunt Estelle, who was a hairstylist at Haynes, would press my hair with a straightening comb and ultra sheen cream pressing wheel. All my favorite childhood candy, such as bubble gum, penny candy bracelets, and necklaces with multicolored sweet tarts on them that I could wear around my arm and neck, could be found in Haynes store. I would eat the candy by lifting the elastic string it was onto my mouth, which left a sticky mess on me. The candy cigarettes, which were sold in a cigarette-shaped box, would make me feel grown up as I blew out the sugary smoke. That's right. Haynes was a classic neighborhood store that not only had candy, but also had staples that we needed for home pantries. Haynes was the corner store in our community. It was located at the corner of London and West Chapel Road. It was the first Black-owned business I had experienced. It was owned by Robert and Mildred Haynes. I realized how significant that was to be a Black-owned business in Shiloh during that time. Dwayne Richardson, the grandson of Robert and Mildred, shared with me the history behind the thread. The history of Haynes grocery store in downtown Asheville reflects the impact of urban renewal in the 70s. And I don't know if any of you all saw Todd's documentary. Todd Gregg, raise your hand. If you have not seen his documentary on urban renewal in Asheville, you have to see it. You have to see it. Facing pressure from the city of Asheville, business owners accepted a buyout, which ultimately led to the closure of the Black-owned business in the community at the time. It is unfortunate that despite the city's urgent need for the property, the site remains undeveloped after 45 years. Following the buyout, the Haynes sought purchase and a remodelable home in the historic Shiloh community. With the remodeling, the Haynes added a beauty salon to the site.
Wow.
Dwayne goes on to say, and the husband and wife team now had both of their business under the same roof.
Wow.
Even now, I can pull up the aroma of grape bubble yum intermingled with pressing oil. It was the smell of love working together. The corner store that left an imprint on my heart will run a successful business at this location for another 20 years. The Haynes eventually sold the building to a Black family that would use the purchase as a tax shelter, never operated it as a business beyond 1995. Sadly, the historic corner store has been torn down and single-family homes have been built on the site. And they tried to save the store and turn it into a historical monument, but they couldn't do it. And that always saddens me to hear that because it is a part of the history of Asheville. But if you don't know Black people live in Asheville, how are you going to say this? I mean, that's the other end of that. So at any rate, so let me move on here because I don't have too much time.
Wow.
And then I talk about Darcel Grimes. Does somebody remembers Darcel
Yes.
Grimes? She is the first Black news anchor I ever saw. So when I saw Joanne Reed and I saw the others, I'm like, I've seen Darcel Grimes before. And so it came back as a memory to me. Darcel came back as a memory. Let's see. And then I talk about Shiloh Center, and Shiloh Center, it was a latchkey kid's dream. That was the place where mom could go to work and know we were gonna be okay. That's where I learned some great line dances. That's where I could still smell the plastic on the bologna and cheese sandwiches that we would get. Yeah. At the center. And I actually sent my kids there because I live in Wheaton, Illinois. And when I moved to Wheaton, there was, at the time, there was only 2% African Americans in Wheaton, Illinois. And I was like, I didn't grow up here. This is not gonna work. So I actually sent my kids to camp at Shiloh Center, and I'll let them tell you what happened because they'll be mad at me. Steve is laughing because they'll be mad at me if I share that story. But it was a great experience for them, right, Steve? And yeah. But the center, Frank Owen said, this community gave us life, a life that revealed our purpose. And so Shiloh Center was a school, you know? And so in this particular piece, I asked the question, what would have happened if it had stayed a school? And I don't know how many of you know Danny Montgomery. Danny, what does Danny do? Trina? He's the
Assistant GM.
assistant GM for the Colorado Rockies from right here in Asheville. And Danny shared with me that that when he played baseball, that the coaches would give him a ride and they didn't want to bring him into our neighborhood. So they would drop him off at the corner so that he could walk home. And so I asked the question, what if they have, you know, what if he had the opportunity to play in his neighborhood? What if the school had still been there? What would that have been like? You know, mom having to walk to PTA meetings to Biltmore School when Biltmore School was there. What would it have been like if the school had stayed in our community? The things that I've learned about my history that I never learned at Biltmore School. I learned about George Washington cutting down the apple tree. I learned so many things, but I never learned my own history. So I wonder what it would have been like for the community center to stay a school and be there for the community. So I'll talk about that a little bit. And then I asked the question, if memories are being triggered, anyone have a story around the center in their neighborhood? So that's just something to think about as you read the book. I know I don't have a lot of time, I'm sorry. You're doing good. And I wrote a poem about civility, and that just kind of came out of nowhere. And I know people have asked me, which by the way, my kids who are on here, when they read my book, they said, we're going to form a book club. It's going to be the Davis Family Book Club. And our first guest author will be Tanya Davis. And so I was to meet on Sundays at 6 p.m. and they would, go over the chapters they would read. And one of the questions was, why would you write the poem about civility? And it says here, my mama taught us civility before she knew the word. My Shiloh village taught me civility before they knew the word. I taught my children civility before I knew the word. I learned civility in Shiloh, playing hopscotch, jump rope, and mom's stern voice. The village that raised me was on White Avenue. The cold phone stretched from one end of of White Avenue to another. Tanya, you hit someone? Go home right now. Yes, ma'am. The phone cord on the wall of the first home on the block seemed to connect to every home. It seemed to stretch all the way to mom. Civility. My head bowed in shame as I passed the scolding eyes of the women in the village. All of this before I reached my front porch. I reached the house and the cold phone releases in front of mama. She says, she's home, thanks for letting me know. She hangs up the phone, looking at me with disappointing eyes. Are you not playing nicely with the other children? Come inside until you're ready to stop acting like you don't belong to nobody. Share your ball with other children. Say thank you when someone does something for you. Did you just speak disrespectfully to your elder? Civility. Mommy, can I have some water? Put a handle on that name. That is Mr. or Mrs., uncle or auntie to you. The way I speak, the way I worship, the way I dress, the color of my skin, the way I walk, is it wrong or is it different? Come a little closer. It is okay to come a little closer. What would you like to know to ease your fear? Get to know me as you want to be known. Respect me as you want to be respected. Civility. Don't turn away. Don't close your eyes. Your children are well-mannered. Civility. Pardon me, I did not mean to interrupt you, shout at you, or make you feel small, less than, invisible. I see you and I will help you, my sister. I will help you, my brother. Would you like to take my seat? I see you carrying a heavy load. Civility is waiting for you to come a little closer. Trembling in the corner, it was sent to when mama's words of love and discipline no longer rang with the fear of God. Apologize or play nicely or say yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am, or civility. How many of you were raised that way? Yes. So, you don't realize these things, and my kids are like, people are telling me not to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And they're saying, please don't say that, just call me by my first name. And they're going, I can't do that, I'll get in trouble. And you don't realize what you're passing on, until your kids are raised. And so then I wrote a chapter about elders, our witness bearers. And this is when I visited St. Sabina Church located in Chicago. I don't know if you all have heard of that. And it's the priest is Father Michael Flager, and it's a social justice Catholic church. At the time, Jesse Jackson was there speaking. And it was an unbelievable experience. And to see how he, as an elder, he's not well. No. He's not well at all. And so to see him having to get down on the floor because he wanted to be in eye contact with the children and speak purpose into their life. And it just struck me. And I respect elders. And I just thought, what a time. And I wanted to show how important it is as an elder, that we give our elders an opportunity to speak into the next generation and to affirm them. And that's what he did. And then the next picture, let's see if it goes. This is Grandma Artie. And I write about her in the chapter. I write about my grandma's, you say you love God. And how, and in this chapter, I talk about how, moving to Chicago. And, I grew up in the Church of Christ, and I don't know how the Church of Christ is now. I'm just telling you about the Church of Christ I grew up in. There was no musical instruments. This is no disrespect. This is my story of the impact. No women, no instruments. And, it would appear that a women's roles in the church were limited. And so I talk about moving to Chicago, and I broke all three codes. I attended a church, and I, that's where I ended up. I ended up with a female pastor, who my husband always says is all women, all pastor. God rest her soul. And then we had instruments. And occasionally people would dance in church. And everything that could be broken was broken, and trying to trying to come home, and my grandma finding this out, and we didn't want her to know, and she finds out. So I write about that. And you say you love God. And I'll read, I wanted to read a little bit of this. I want to read the end. And I talk about growing up next door to my grandma, which I now see was a blessing. And I'm going back to her birthday party, and she's turning 100 years old. And I walk in the room, and it was just her and I. It was really a sacred moment. And I sat down in a folding chair beside her while she was in her bed. And she's very surprised that I've come. And she said, baby, if it had not been for I sat down in a folding chair beside her hospital twin-like bed. I held her cold, wrinkled hand, and we laughed. I asked Grandma, what is your secret to living such a long life? She replied, baby, if it had not been for Jesus dying on that tree, ooh-wee, that is my secret. I responded, Grandma Artie, I know who you're talking about. Her eyes looked over those Coke bottle glasses. You do? Yes, ma'am, I do. Do you still go to that church up there in Chicago? Yes, ma'am, I do. Is it the Church of Christ? No, ma'am. Do you have instruments? Yes, ma'am, we do. You still have that woman pastor? Yes, ma'am. And you say you love God? Yes, ma'am, I do love God. I believe as you do. I believe that God loves me and forgives me. I believe in the same Jesus you do. So Grandma Arnie, can you tell me that I'm not going to heaven? GGA just smiled and didn't say a word, just a little familiar one-sided smirk that everybody remembers who knows her. Formed on her mouth. I kissed her cheek and told her I would be back soon. A week later, great grandma Artie passed away, and I'll forever carry that memory of us alone in the bedroom. Grandma Addie took her dirt nap years later at the age of 90. Until the days of her passing, she remained worried that she might not see her family members when the roll is called up yonder. And then I talk about the role of the church in the civil rights movement. And then I say Pastor Thelma, who you'll see, if you can, well, I think you can keep going. Okay, this right, I talk about my grandma's house and how we always had to pray. This is the actual wall hanging. I have it at home. So in the next slide. And that's my great grandma, my grandma, and my great granddad. Next one. And that's me and Pastor Thelma. That's my woman pastor. I'll write it on her. And then I say, Pastor Thelma once said, when we look back over our lives and all that God has brought us through, it is clear someone was praying for us. I am an answer to my grandma's prayers. It makes me sad that Grandma Addie never got the opportunity to relax and enjoy the fruit of her prayers, or that I didn't have the same moment with her like I had with great Grandma Artie. I'm sure she was shocked to see the woman preacher enter the pearly gates. As she is looking from the eternal perspective, I am sure her vision is a little clearer. The Bible says we have a great cloud of witnesses, and she is looking down from among the witnesses with Thelma standing beside her. I imagine great Grandma Artie is telling Grandma Addie with that beautiful smile. She used to call me Tanya. Tanya is doing just fine. And so then I asked the question, how did faith, religion, or spirituality, this is for you. What stories are your body holding around faith, religion, and spirituality, or even church hurt? So that's the question there. And then I talk about Thelma, and I'm about done. And then I talk about DJ. Okay, oh, put it there twice? Okay, go to the next picture, I think it's next. Yes. Yeah. This is DJ Hollywood, and I talk about him and the role of music in my life. And who knows DJ Hollywood? I know some people know DJ. DJ Hollywood's mom is back there actually on the end. That's my Aunt Jo. And I talk about how he brought music from New York, music I'd never heard, Strawberry Letter 22, and the smell of strawberries. And I talk about all that. And just, I want to read this first sentence. I once had a dream that I was traveling internationally. I landed in France, but when I stepped off the plane, I was on the corner of Brooklyn and Shiloh Road in Shiloh. There was DJ Hollywood spinning on the turntable, earphones covered his head. One earpiece was off his ear and the other was on. He was swaying back and forth to the beat he was hearing in his earphones. You know, after I wrote this book, I talked to him because I wanted to see what he thought. And he said, he says, I had never, he said, did I tell you about that I wanted to go to France, that was a dream of mine? He goes, when did I tell you that? I've never told anyone. I said, I didn't, I dreamed it.
Wow.
And so I thought that was very interesting. And I said, well, you need to go to France then, because now you're in a book. I had no idea.
Wow.
And then I talk about next picture. Oh, and go back a picture. This is our DJ now, because I said now our family has a DJ. And we don't have a party without a DJ, so that's DJ Marco. Okay, this right here goes with this story that I'm gonna end. So I also talk about music, and I talk about my favorite group being Sugar Hill Gang when I was young. So when I turned 60 this year, my kids surprised me and brought the Sugar Hill Gang to my 60th birthday party.
Wow.
And so this is me being totally shocked that the Sugar Hill Gang just showed up and, yeah, next slide. And that's me, that's the Sugar Hill Gang behind me.
Wow.
This is me. I thought this was a great picture because my bonus daughter-in-law said, something is about to happen tonight and you don't like surprises. And I need for you to remember what you always tell everybody else, take it all in. So while they performing, I just stopped and closed my eyes to breathe and to take everything in that was going on around me. And they got it in a photo. Next. And that's just some family pictures. And that's my son right there in the back. And I just want to show we clown a lot. This is supposed to be a serious picture, next picture. That's Sugar Hill Gang.
Yeah.
That's my whole family at the birthday party. This is me and Trina. Trina's right here, and this chapter is on friendship. So I just want you to know that we've been friends since second grade. So
Wow.
yeah, we went to Biltmore School. We went to Asheville High. We went to college together, and we still won't leave each other alone. Here we are. Okay, next picture. That's us. That's us in high school. We thought we were so cute. And that's me and her now. And then this is a chapter where I talk about my neighborhood papa in Shiloh, which was Ralph. And he's the one that told me that my husband was my husband.
It's a great story.
Thank you.
Yes.
And the first black ballerina I'd ever seen right here in Asheville.
Come on now.
It's Tara Reed Foster. And the reason I love I'd never seen a black ballerina. She was the first one I saw. And now I take my grandkids to the ballerina, and I took my kids, and now they're taking their kids. We're going December 21st, actually. And then the old Shiloh sign, I talk about that, how the old Shiloh became the new Shiloh. And I mentioned about a tree, because have you all ever been to the behind the scenes tour of the Biltmore house?
Yeah.
And they talk about this trees that were twisted together, and one was an old tree and one was a new tree. And I called to get a picture of it, and she said, that's not true. And I'm like, I've heard this story. Oh, I saw the tree. And so they're telling me that that's not true. And I'm like, but I saw the tree. And so anyway, this is the old Shiloh sign. So when you see the new Shiloh, you know, the old Shiloh was in Biltmore Forest, part of the estates. And then this is Miss Isabel White, Miss Anita's mother.
Oh.
Who was our neighborhood hero,
Wow.
who made sure that we were taken care of all the time. And I didn't know the whole street was named after her. I lived on White Avenue. She was Isabel White. I'm like,
Wow.
so that's that. And then this is my story about Southern Black and Bougie. If you read that with Foxy, there's Foxy. Honey. I know I call her Foxy. I keep saying Foxy, but anyway, yeah, honey. And this is Aunt Joe and Uncle Walter, and I'll close with that, and then we're done. I'm sorry I've gone over time.
You're fine.
You could stay.
Okay, I want to read that as the last thing. Okay. And this is Aunt Joe, which is back there. This is one of my favorite memories here. I talk about finding grits. I couldn't find them in the north and I realized I was homesick. And at my last book signing in Charlotte, someone brought me places to get grits in the Midwest. So this is called Love Fills the Room. This is where I'll conclude. It is a Saturday afternoon when I pull up at Daddy's house. He lives in the house once occupied by my grandmas, Addie and Artie. I enter and it's as if time has stood still at 15 White Avenue. The Last Supper carpet hangs on the oak paneled wall. The dining room table is set with chinaware as if a special guest would be arriving at any moment. Grandma Addie always loved a beautiful set table. The table looked like a picture in an etiquette book. The plates were dinner, salad, dessert. There was also a butter holder, teacups, gravy bowl, silverware, and napkins ready to be placed in each guest's lap. Everything in the house seems smaller than I remember, as you read. Thank you for reading that. Yeah, that was really good. Thank you for that connection. Everything in the house seems smaller than I remember. It always catches me off guard when things seem smaller than when I was a child. Everything seemed big when I was a child. The rooms, the chairs, the streets. I think it's the blessing and the curse of leaving home and discovering the world is bigger than what can be seen with eyes. Learning, traveling, getting to know and understand the perspective of others, seeing the affluence of people, and realizing someone will always have more. It all expands the mind. The curse of it all, the eyes are now open and nothing is the same. It becomes a nostalgia mingled with disappointment and sadness because I feel so far away from this place. I sit on my dad's front porch in the warm mountain air. Now that the neighborhood is becoming gentrified, everything seems to be getting an upgrade. The narrow roads look newly paved and seem narrower since I played foursquare and kickball. At one time, I could sit on this porch and cars would come by beeping and waving. Some of the drivers would stop at the recognition of a face and back up. How you doing? Tell Dad and Eleanor I said, hey. Now as cars whizzed by, there were more white faces than I'd ever seen. Faces from other cities and states that did not understand our ways or the history of the community. They looked straight ahead into their windshield. I could not see their faces or see anything familiar about them. There was a time when someone would drive by and we would sit on the porch and tell by the profile whose son, daughter, or grandchild someone belonged. I could tell that was a Jackson child by that nose or mouth. I am told that when realtors list properties in Shiloh area, they call it East Asheville. Did I get that right? They call it East Asheville sometimes?
No, sometimes they call it East Biltmore Village.
East Biltmore Village. Okay. As if something would be wrong with saying Shiloh. A community with a deep history of pride and love. A community trying to fight to hold on to our remaining history. My Aunt Joe and Uncle Walter would come by and join me on the front porch. Cousin Man would come by for a surprise visit. We would sit and talk about all the changes taking place in the neighborhood. We would talk about Haynes grocery store being torn down. The store sat on 1/4 of an acre and now 4 700 square foot homes have been crowded onto the lot. Each home at the time was valued at $350,000. We each exclaimed in our own way, who would have thought that would happen in Shiloh? And the neighborhood center now is a new track and fresh coat of paint. We wanted that done when it was just us around here. We all would shake our heads in sadness and amazement. The elders would comment and share stories about the neighborhood as Man and I listened, thirsty for more, not missing a word of what they were saying. We sat on Grandma's porch for hours. We laughed at each other, shared pain and dreams. Remember how Grandma would make that double-layer chopped coconut cake? Remember how she would set that table so pretty? And then we would have to get on our knees and pray with the smell of hot biscuits in our noses. Granddaddy never took those suits off. Uncle Walter sat quietly smiling. Uncle Walter always wears some type of Kango hat and sunglasses. He usually will sit quietly in his dark shades, listening and smiling until asked a question or he has something specific to share. Uncle Walter has always told jokes. I realized it had been years since I had heard one of his jokes. Uncle Walter, would you share a joke? I have not heard one in a long time. He threw his hand up and waved it in a shooing motion. No, I don't have any. The group continues with our walk down memory lane. Suddenly, he would say with a smile, Tanya, I have one for you. A pair of cows were walking down in the field. One says, "Have you heard about the mad cow disease that's going around?" The other cow says, "Makes me glad I'm a penguin." Uncle Walter would say, "I have another one. You believe everything you hear, but you can repeat it." Laughter would fill the afternoon air. Uncle Walter would say, "I have another one. Did you hear they arrested the devil? They got him on possession." We laughed and laughed and laughed. The threads of my heart unravel, my heart expands, and I remember why the room feels as large as it does. It is love that fills the room. It is family that fills the room. It is memories that fill a room. It is story that fills a room. So I'll end with some pictures of my family. And I say, Shiloh lives in me. Bearden lives in them, lives in my husband. We live in Wheaton. Our children live in Wheaton, with Shiloh and Bearden living in them. And my kids have built homes in our backyard, and they named the community Shiloh Manor because they got tired of me saying I'm from Shiloh. So they named their little subdivision Shiloh Manor. So those are the kids that live in my backyard. You can keep going. These are just some candid shots of us. Some of the grins. I was going down memory lane. I'm sorry, y'all. I got a little like. That's number 10 and 11, the twins. Mako, me and my daughter. The other ones. And I'll stop. This is my last thing. So the blessing of being able to go away and come back, and we have been tremendously blessed to be able to give and to sow back into our neighborhoods. And at the beginning, and this is the name of we have a foundation. It's the William and Mary Davis Foundation. It is our foundation. And out of that foundation, we have two initiatives. We have a Purpose by Design. You can keep going, which serves girls between the ages of 13 and 17. These are all my volunteers. You can keep going. You keep going. Keep going. And then we have Tuskegee Next, and those are the original Tuskegee Airmen. And so we give kids an opportunity that have a high aptitude in aviation to fly airplanes. So we've licensed how many, Steve?
94.
94 kids who come to our program for free in an advanced 8-week program. And so, and the Tuskegee Airmen, we got a chance to meet them, and the kids got a chance to sit under the elders' feet.
Yes.
And so this is Tuskegee Next. Okay, and so that being said, at the beginning, when I wrote this book in January, I said a percentage of the proceeds of the book would go back to the Shiloh Scholarship Fund. Well, Miss Anita, we didn't make a whole lot of money off the book, but you know, we don't write for money. But thank God we have a foundation.
Yeah.
And so we would like, my husband and I would like to present a check to the Shiloh Scholarship Foundation for $5,000.
Oh, you know, Shiloh has some really marvelous kids to come through. And here's a good example. And she's giving back. The Shiloh Community Association has a scholarship fund, and we actually have an endowment. It was with the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina. And we started in 2017, and so far we've been able to support 10 kids. And with this, bless you, my darling, we'll be able to support even more. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I also want to thank you. I told you one time back at the community center, and she hosted it.
Yes, we brought her back.
And that was such a big deal for me to have the elders host my first book signing. So, questions? Last thoughtful.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get a round of applause. And we do have, and we can add time to the clock, so don't stress. But we did want to save a couple of moments to just engage with the audience here after that fabulous read. And we got, like I said, that's just like it's like a love letter in the form of a literary quilt to this community. So that was such a wonderful thing. Does anybody have any questions that they have for Tanya about her book or her memories or her writer craft or the process that she went through in creating this beautiful work?
I have one question.
Okay, and
Okay.
can I
Yeah.
give that to you?
Yes. So Tanya, I want to know about your favorite memory of food, your favorite food and how you pass that on to your children or grandchildren.
Well, let's ask them.
Hey.
I have some children up here. Can you all answer that question? Jessica, or I think Tabitha's on here. You don't have to put your face on, but if you could answer. Okay. Okay. They're probably like, Mom, why would you do that? I would say, okay. I would say the thing that I long for the most is salmon croquettes.
Yeah.
So Steve probably gets tired of those. But salmon croquettes and then with Dad's homemade biscuits. And so I can't make the biscuits, but I can make a croquette. So that's my favorite.
You have any other questions or here we go.
Yeah, this is kind of a food related question too, because you did mention grits.
Oh,
The story in your book about trying to find grits in a grocery store in Chicago was so it was very amusing but sad at the same time. And it kind of brought up that the difference and the sameness of culture. And you didn't talk much about that in your presentation. I just wondered if you wanted to say a few words about the culture shock and yet that sense of sameness that you got when you moved up there.
Yeah. So that's a good question. That could go on all night. I'm going to try to keep this short.
I wish I could listen to
That was a good question. It was a culture shock because I went from Shiloh, and before I graduated from DePaul, I went to St. Augustine's College in Raleigh. So I went to HBCU. And then I met my husband, and then he took me to Chicago and moved me to Wheaton with 2%. And I was like, I've never been this. What are these? And for me to go, hi, and I'd be like, hey, how are you? And they would go, how are you? And I go, fine. And I just tell them how I'm doing. And they're looking at me like, I don't want to know all that. or even I'm like, hey, Steve, so-and-so asked me to lunch and now she's not answering it. Tiny, she didn't mean that. I feel like she didn't mean that. She was just trying to end the conversation. I was like, that's so sad, Or speaking, just speaking to everyone. Till eventually my neighbors on my block said, we just wave because you're going to wave anyway. And they'll just be like this. And I'll with their head turned, but they will just, because then I'm going to go, hi, and so at first those things were really hard. And what I learned from God is to see people where they are and to recognize, because it would appear, y'all forgive me, but this is, for me, it was, white people don't have problems. And I have issues, and I grew up in Shiloh, and what am I supposed to do? And then all of a sudden I'm surrounded by neighbors who are calling me and telling me, and I know that was a God thing, that telling me, oh, this is happening with my son, or this is happening with my daughter. I'm like, oh, everybody has issues, and having to understand that. And then finding the Black community there. I think Dr. Turner is on the phone. Dr. Turner is a historian in Wheaton. If you have never heard of her, look her up. She has her own encyclopedia page, but she's done extensive research on the Underground Railroad. And she's on the call. So meeting women like her, knowing that the Underground Railroad ran through Wheaton, and learning the history through her eyes. She knows the descendants of Harriet Tubman. So she's written all these children's books about Harriet Tubman. And so I became surrounded by all these people who helped me with that culture shock. But it was really hard finding community. So I started looking at foreign and food and grits and making my salmon croquettes.
What was her name again?
Lynette Tilly Turner.
Okay, thank you.
So I just wanted to draw a little connection here with Chicago and Asheville. Wilma Dykeman, when she graduated from Grace High, at the mouth of Beaver Dam, where R.B. Jones Elementary is now, and then went to 2 years at Asheville Biltmore. She went to Northwestern.
Oh,
And that
wow.
was a huge transition for her. And one of her letters home to her mother was, Mother, you would not believe the money up here.
It's true.
The Packers and the studs. She was not talking about men. She was talking about Studebakers. She said, I can't believe it. Yeah.
That's true. I was in shock. I was in shock. But seeing the Ebony Jet building was another thing. If anybody knows that, like Ebony Jet building was right on Michigan Avenue, and I couldn't believe, I'm like, these are the Ebony magazines that my mom had on the toilet. So yeah, those kind of things were great.
I wanted to ask just a little more personal question about how you got into writing. I mean, were you doing that as a younger person, or what inspired you to kind of start putting this down on paper?
Well, my friends will tell you, I've always written. Was always writing something. I mean, the amount of journals that I had. And when I moved, and I remember when we first left the country, and I realized I had about 3 boxes of journals. My kids are gonna laugh when they hear this. I took those journals to my friend's house. I said, if something happens to me, you burn every one of these. Sean did that. And she said, okay, and she put them in the attic. But I've always written, and even when the kids left home, because I stayed home with the kids, and they left home, and I had this degree in counseling, and I was like, I want to write, that's even a thing. And that's when I Googled writing counseling, and up popped narrative medicine. And that's how I met Laura. And she was the first one to say, Tanya, you're a writer. And I was like, okay. And so, and to be able to, because in order to help people process their own stories, you have to process your own. And so in doing that, I was just be writing and writing. And she says, you have to do something with this. And I wrote a piece called Native. You read the book. That's probably one of my favorites, because the number of times I have heard, you're a native. You're a native of Asheville. Except this time around, I was called a unicorn in a restaurant. I actually tell people I'm from Asheville to see what they're going to tell me, if they're going to call me a unicorn or a native. I got called a unicorn this time. And they said, I just didn't know there were Black people who lived here. I just don't understand how you can live in a place and not get to know the history and the people of that place. I just don't understand that. So I didn't answer the question. I know I was all over the place. So that's how the writing came about, and I have never stopped. I'm a part of Spiritual Direction for Writers now, and her name is Charlotte Dunlin, and she's the one that's given me the platform to do my writing exercises. She was my writing coach. And so that's how I continue doing it. And you're welcome to join any of my sessions if you ever want to come.
Yeah. I'm also a native.
What?
What year did you graduate from Asheville High?
1983.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
I graduated 1970s.
Ooh.
I graduated in 1969.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that was the year.
Anybody else have question, comment? Anything? Good.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
One more round of applause for Ms. Davis. We'll wrap things up. Andrew, I don't know if you can go back to that slideshow real fast. Again, that was a treat, Ms. Davis. So thank you so much for sharing your story with everybody. That was wonderful. And just to close a couple things down, and I was going to ask you, I don't know, I believe, is Mahogany Books your publisher? Or that's just a different site.
No, it's Book Baby. I don't know.
Book Baby.
Maybe it's on there, but I didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Mahogany Books.
Oh, it is. Okay,
Yeah, it's
so
Book Baby as well.
We'll post a link to those of you who might be interested. We'll get you information if you'd like to purchase a copy of Tanya's book. I highly recommend it. It was awesome, and now you've got the face to match with the story and everything. So definitely recommend picking up a copy. Andrew, can you go to the next page? And again, that wraps up this 4-part series. We're going to do another one of these next year, I believe, Jim, September, November, December of next year, where we're going to feature regional voices similar to this year, but maybe with a slightly different theme. And Andrew, one more, we're about to kick off a new short story series in January, February. March this year at the Thomas Wolfe Memorial. And I'll be kicking that one off. We read short stories at the memorial, and we do this through the tripartite lens of Wilma Dykeman, the social justice piece, the written and spoken word, and environmental integrity. It's just another way of looking at our community through different lenses. So we wanted to invite you guys to participate in that. If you enjoyed this event, we do a lot of things like similar to this throughout the year. And Andrew, one last slide, and then we'll adjourn, I believe, if there is one more slide. And again, I was going to encourage you all back. Jim Stokely, who chimed in there a couple of times, is the president and the founder of the Wilma Dykeman Legacy. He's son of Wilma Dykeman, and again, pretty important guy in my opinion. Kind of carrying on the legacy of his mom's work through those three pillars. But he's back there with some of our publications. We're also a small publisher. And have some of Wilma's works back there, and I'm sure Tanya will hang out, and I'd love you to sign my book if you would. But if you guys would like to learn more, just join our Facebook lists, that sort of thing. We'd love for you guys to do that and help us keep these programs free for the community. So thank you again, and one more round of applause for Ms. Davis. We'll have a great visit. Nice job, Andrew. How many we have on Zoom? Look like a bunch of people.